The title of today's lecture is Genetics, or Genetic Drift, rather. The fourth major evolutionary force is referred to as genetic drift. Genetic drift is defined as the random factor. The effect of genetic drift is primarily due to sampling phenomena, that is, population size. Because evolution occurs in populations, it is tied to the initial allele frequencies of the population as well as to the size of the population. And so what genetic drift is really getting at is the size of the population in addition to the allele frequencies are of real importance. Let's say we have 10 individuals. 5 individuals in the population have the homozygous dominant genotype, and 5 individuals have the homozygous recessive genotype. 2 individuals with the homozygous recessive genotype get hit by a meteorite and die. Oh, that's horrible, right? Really bad luck. Now, there are 10 individuals in the population that still have there are 5 individuals in the population that still have the dominant A alleles, but there are only 3 individuals that have the homozygous recessive alleles. So there are 6 total recessive alleles left, and there are 10 total dominant alleles in the population, for a total of 16. Before we had 20. The proportions have now shifted from 50-50 to now 50 to 30-63. So we now have 63% dominant A and 37 recessive A, all due to a chance meteorite striking and killing 2 people. This meteor hitting these individuals was a chance event. It had nothing to do with their genotype, but it still affects their gene pool. It affects the remaining gene pool. In a large population, if we remove 2 individuals, it would have a really minuscule effect statistically on the allele frequencies. If we had 100,000 people, 50,000 had the dominant alleles and 50,000 had the recessive alleles. You remove 2, the influence of losing those 2 individuals is going to be minuscule. You're not going to notice it. But if with 10 people or 20 people in the population, small populations, the effect of genetic drift is magnified. So what we say is that the influence of genetic drift is directly and inversely related to population size. That is, the smaller the population, the larger the influence of drift. The larger the population, the smaller the influence of genetic drift. The genetic makeup of an individual is not related to random events of their lives. Being hit by a meteorite does not affect being homozygous recessive, nor is it affected by being homozygous recessive. As an example, let's look at the founder effect. Sewall Wright is the father of the founder effect. He's commonly called the father of population genetics, and he is from the early to mid-1900s. And the founder effect operates when a small group of individuals contributes genes to the next population. And this forms what we call a kind of bottleneck. Let's say that this is the original population, and these individuals survive, and these individuals survive. They each survive on separate islands. These individuals are now founding population A. These bugs are now founding population B. These are their descendants, and these are their descendants. Look at the differences in color, just based on who the original founding population was, all because either population A or population B survived. Let's say we have a small migrant band that colonizes a new separate area away from the parent group. Only a small group survives due to an apocalypse, and they now need to repopulate. Let's say there are a classic example happened on Daphne Major. Daphne Major is one of the islands off the Galapagos, and there was an original population of 1,000 plus birds on this island. But there was a major hurricane that occurred on this island, and only 100 finches were left on the island after this hurricane. That is the founding population. That caused a genetic bottleneck for this population. Another example that relates to humans occurred on the island of Tristan da Cunha. This island was occupied by the British between 1816 and 1821. And it was occupied by the British to prevent the rescue of Napoleon, who was on exile on a nearby island. After Napoleon's death, Corporal William Glass, his wife, and two of his daughters asked for permission to remain on this island after the British withdrew. Over time, a few shipwrecked sailors joined them. Overall, there were less than 24 people on the island by the 1830s. Okay, so the original founding population was 24 individuals, many of which were related. In 1961, 294 individuals needed to be evacuated from that island due to a nearby volcanic eruption. So in 1830, there were 24. In 1961, 130 years later, there were 294. That's a big population increase, right? While in England, all these individuals were tested for a lot of genetic traits because they were all so closely related. The scientists in England found that the population from Tristan da Cunha had very high frequencies of a medical condition called clinodactyly, which is an autosomal dominant trait. You can see an example right here. It's real shortening of the fifth finger, and it's especially prominent in members of the Glass family. And the high frequency of this trait is explained by its presence in one of the original colonists. So by the original Glass father, he had this trait, and he passed it on to his daughters and all the other individuals that were his descendants. So genetic drift, as you can see, can be very, very powerful and does happen in nature, both in terms of the birds in the Galapagos as well as in human populations. So it's a very powerful evolutionary force, and one that we shouldn't forget about.